Hey there, I'm Keith, and this is the OG Red Komodo. This tiny little camera just got a price drop, so I thought it would be worth revisiting in 2025. But before we jump into that, I just wanted to do like a quick comparison between the Pyxis and the OG Komodo. This is such a tiny camera. This is like about the size of the FX6. One really understated part of the OG Komodo is just how small it is. And here's the FX3 next to the OG Komodo. It is wild how small this camera actually is. So let's start with the lightweight rig that I've been using. First up, we have a NATO rail with a side rosette from Cine. I bought this for my FX6 to use with a handle if I was gonna take my side handle off to have a rosette on the side. And I just wanted a quick mounting attachment for my monitor if I was gonna use it on my Easy Rig for a long period of time and didn't need audio. So I bought this one and it happened to fit my FX6 back in the day. Like last year. This was really solid. It's been on my FX6, it's been on the Pyxis, and now it's on the Komodo, the camera that it was actually made for. Next up, we have a NATO top handle. This is a small rig top handle. Next up is something that I actually took a little bit of time to figure out if I wanted the core plate or the Mutiny plate. The core plate is about $160 on B&H. So this is the one that I went with first because I also trust Core as a brand. But whenever I used this, it worked once and then it never worked again. I reached out to B&H and they said they're going to let me refund it so I can just return this one. But in the meantime, they're like, well, do you want a replacement or do you want a different brand? And we'll just credit the balance to the other one. I was looking at how the core plate actually works. There's two Canon battery slots on the back of the Komodo OG. One of these slots on the core battery uses the contacts from the V-mount battery to actually power it. So the benefit here of this plate is that you don't need to connect it with power to the back. So you just one battery plate and you're done. I liked the idea of that and it was cheaper at first. However, thinking about it more, if these contacts don't make perfect contact with the back of the battery plate, or they shift or move over time, maybe that's why this wasn't working. So then I thought maybe I should go with a different design of one that actually has just a dummy battery plate and one that plugs into the back of this power back here. So I found this Mutiny plate and I absolutely love the design of this plate. You can mount the V-mount battery horizontal or vertical. It originally came horizontal and it's like a cooler, sleek look. I do like how easy this Mutiny plate goes into the Komodo as well. I had a really tough time plugging in the Core battery plate. I love Core products. They're great. I like their team. But for this one, I think the design of the Mutiny plate is just better for this scenario. And there's two cables on the back. One is power and one is the expansion or extension port. This allows you to plug in other devices and power other devices as well. And you get a giant red record button on the top of your camera. So I like this. Let me plug this in and get to the lens. For my lightweight builds, I find myself reaching for my DZO Film Vespids. If I want to have a camera on a gimbal or just a lightweight setup, these are the lenses that I've been reaching for. I've thought about selling these lenses like a dozen times, and every single time I take pictures of them to sell, I'm like, I can't get rid of these. I can go on a tangent about these, but to adapt the PL to the RF mount, I've been going with the Octopus mount because I have the Sony PL to E this one I actually own for my Sony cameras. And I also have a PL2L that I have on loan for the Pyxis. I wanted to use the Mofage Poco, but I thought it would be beneficial if I'm using these lenses on multiple different camera systems to just have one adapter and keep all those distance markings the same. I have to get rid of some of this stuff. I'm like drowning over here. You can't see it right now, but I have a desk that I prepare like all of my cameras on usually, and it is an absolute mess. For batteries, I've been using the Core Nano X. And I love the Mutiny plate here again, because after you put a battery in and you lock it into place, it actually locks on the V-mount plate. So I've accidentally bumped off a battery in the past. Especially if I'm trying to put it against my body for more stabilization. And it's not properly locked or seated, or the V-mount battery plate doesn't even hold the battery all the way. That's been like a complete deal breaker. So I love finding V-mount battery plates that actually lock into place. And I'm back. What a day. Quick rant about CFast cards. This is a SanDisk Extreme Pro CFast card, a recommended card on Red's website. And sometimes I'm getting errors even after I safely eject it on the camera and then safely eject it on the computer. I'll still get some warnings that like I have to scan and fix the card, which is a little alarming considering this camera only has one card slot. So I would prefer if there was 2 card slots. I would really prefer if there were no errors. If you guys know how to handle this, let me know in the comments down below, because this is like a little bit alarming to me. I'm using multiple Red recommended and approved cards, but I'm still getting errors to like scan and fix. It's like 1 out of every 20 times. So it's not a lot, but it's still enough to be like a little bit worried. For filters, I've been using 2 different filters, a diffusion and a VND. I've been transitioning all of my other circular VNDs to the Nisi True Color VNDs. I like those ones a little bit better. This is a Peter McKinnon 2-5, and I find at 5 it introduces like a lot of color casting. I made LUTs to take care of it, so it's not a huge deal, but it's like another step. It's like another node in Resolve to do. Not the end of the world, and it's not like worth me spending extra money to do that since I already made those correction LUTs. But the diffusion filter I've been using, this one is a Nisi 1/8 black mist filter. I've also been using a Hollywood black mist filter, and that is on my Sony cameras because it's like a little sharpened on those other sensors. The Pyxis is a little sharp, but I haven't really needed to use a lot of diffusion. Like I haven't felt like I needed to use diffusion on this camera, but just for fun, a couple of times I did put on a 1/8 black mist filter, and I've liked the results. I like that 1/8, like it's not overpowering, but it like blooms the highlights and like lifts the contrast like just a little bit. This is the most lightweight setup I've used with my Komodo OG. No monitor, just using the monitor on the top of the camera. For simplicity's sake, I made up a separate top handle here. So this is the top handle I've been using, more specifically the monitor I've been using. This is the Small HD Cine 7, and I picked this one up so that I could use it with my Sony cameras originally. I'm glad I bought the Small HD because it has camera control for a lot of like higher end cameras to grow into. So that's one thing that swayed me to buy the Small HD Cine 7, that and the high nits. So I think it's like 1500, so you can easily see it outside during the day. If I stick with the OG Komodo, I will definitely be buying the camera control, but that's like pretty expensive, coming in at around 500 bucks for the cables and the software license. So that's a little bit more of an investment if I'm going to go forward with the Komodo in the future. A little cable management here, just 2 bongo ties to keep anything from snagging either direction. Like if I pull on these SDI or LEMO cables somehow by the handle, it doesn't pull from the back, and probably more likely to happen if I'm going to plug these in over here. I've actually been using the Mutiny plate as like a built-in cable management. I'm not sure if that's like something they want you to do, but it's been nice to have like kind of both my cables wrangle around this side of my camera and not be, I don't need another bongo tie or anything, and it just kind of like neatly folds here. I love that the Mutiny plate also has 2 D-taps, one going each direction, so you don't have to like have a cable going a weird way if you don't need to. Or if you need to power something from this side of the camera, it's going the proper direction. For the lens, I've actually been using my Arles lens, and I've been using the Arles mainly because I need to sometimes open up a little more than the T2.1 that the Vespids can do. So going from T2.1 to T1.4 is kind of a big difference on these cameras that don't have dual base ISO like my Sony cameras do. So it's been nice having a little bit more light. That does come at a cost that it really does make this entire rig a lot heavier. And there you go. This is the Arles on the OG Komodo, and it is super front heavy now. One thing about this RF mount though, it is really solid. I've been using the Pyxis PL to L, and that's like, there's a little bit of play in there. There's also a little bit of play in my Sony E to PL because maybe because I've been using it a lot with an RLs unsupported. But this is really solid. So I like that the RF mount is, able to support a really heavy lens. But the next decision I have to make is, do I want to use VNDs or do I want to use a matte box? But if I want to just keep it as lightweight as possible, this is the Nisi True Color VND, and this is an 86 millimeter. So I've been using this, just screwing it on the front of the RLs. And again, like the lightweight kit, it just makes it a lot easier to just walk around and kind of just adjust the VND on the front of the lens. And it's pretty easy. If I do want to go down the matte box route, then I have to actually put rods on the bottom of this camera because, well, I'll just show you in a second. I'm about to ruin the entire aesthetic of this camera with one simple part here. This is a base plate, 15 millimeter rods, and a dovetail. I need this for my clamp-on matte box. I'll show you more in a second, but I'm gonna put this on the camera. A quick note about this small rig multi-tool. It's nice and convenient to have all the Allen keys in there and the, Phillips or flathead if you need it in a pinch. But I found the best screwdriver to be an actual screwdriver. I just spent like 20 minutes looking for my Tilta base plate. All I have is my small rig one at home. My Tilta one's at the office. So just for the sake of example, I had to take the bottom riser off of this one. But for the whole point of putting 50 millimeter rods on here with the correct Tilta base plate is that you now have the proper height to put the clamp-on matte box that I have. This is my Mgmt 12, and this is like the closest thing to an Airy LMB that's not an Airy LMB or a Bright Tangerine Misfit or something. So this one is like $200. Tilta just came out with a new one. I think it's the Mirage Pro, and it has like a swing away and a lot of other like pretty cool features. But I still like this one the best because it's just not a bunch of parts that like move, like that swing away or anything like that. And it's really strong. Like once you put it on the front of your camera with the proper base plate, it makes a secure connection to your lens, and the riser actually sits really flush onto here. And the reason that I wanted to still illustrate this, even though it's not technically right, these filters can load from the top or the bottom. So they can technically, let me see if I can do this in front of the camera or behind the camera here. If you loosen these up and you're doing a filter change, you can technically push these down and they could fall out of the matte box. And that's something that like really worried me when I first got this one. But like that's how matte boxes are. So I like to always load my filters from the top, and I just overhang these rods a little bit because usually when I don't work on super big teams. So if I'm having like someone who's not super experienced with this, I don't want them to like loosen one of these things and then my filters just fall on the floor. So this is like the cheapest insurance I could possibly think of while still using a matte box that I like. So the fact that I can use this exact same matte box and filters and diffusion filters on a Red camera, a Blackmagic camera, or a Sony camera, or anything in the future, I really like that. There are some other ones out there, but I think price for performance, it's really hard to beat the Mgmt 12. And they actually go used on sale on B&H all the time. That's where I bought this one. And I bought all the backs individually for like, I think $30-something. So I saved a ton of money buying this one used even. Another reason I went with the Mgmt 12 is because it has these front mats on it. And you can pull these mats out. Let's see if I can do it gently here. It has these mats, and based on what focal length you're using, like I pretty much leave the 32 to 35 in here because I use the 40 millimeter a lot. A lot of other matte boxes, you'll see them and they just like have just exposed glass in the front of them. I like the fact that not only am I blocking light coming from the side of my camera, but I can also block light coming from the front as well. And they have multiple different hard mats in the front of this. Sorry if that was loud. This might not be the coolest matte box around, but it definitely is a functional one with a pretty attractive price point, especially if you can find it used. One more thing about this matte box, and I'll stop talking about it. Also, it has 1/4-20 and 3/8 threads here, kind of jumping ahead a little bit here, but I've been using the DJI Lidar, and I had a really tough time figuring out where to put the Lidar. And I found that I can just put it on the front of this matte box, because if you put it back here too far, it only sees, you know, the top third or top quarter of everything that you're filming once you put a big lens on it, once you put a matte box on it. But if you can put a Lidar on the front, then it has a better chance of seeing everything and judging distance properly. That's kind of a rant, but that's another reason I liked this one. And it comes with a matte. I'm not super excited about the size of this thing. It's kind of large. I wish it didn't have like built-in, what are these, eyebrows, eyelids, whatever these are, on the side. I just wish it was like on here. I might just cut it. I don't know. Probably won't cut it. Also, quickly going over these filters, this is the Cine filter crate. There's like 2 versions of this exact same thing online, and I bought the PHFX Tools version, and it was like $100 cheaper. I don't know why it's different, but I'm slowly making a whole set of filters here, and I do like this. Like, this is like whiteboard material, so if you're really critical, you can like write on like whiteboard what the filters are on the side. I don't know, I just thought that was something cool to mention. And I've never seen anyone actually use this filter crate online before, so I found this, and all these filters come in like these soft, like soft-sided neoprene type fabric-y cases, and I really like the idea of having these in a hard case so they're properly protected. So just quick shout out to this thing. I don't know why this video is so unhinged, but between like getting interrupted 3 times and assembling all this stuff, this video has taken me 55 minutes to get this far into it. So if you're enjoying this, like and subscribe. But the next thing I would do to this rig, usually this would be completely fine if it was like me behind the camera. But if I need a remote feed, or if I will be away from the camera or someone else is pulling focus, that's when I put the DJI transmission and a focus motor on here. So let's put that on really quick. The way I love to use the DJI transmission is with this like Tilta, I call it the sandwich plate, but this just sandwiches the transmitter between your V-mount battery plate and your V-mount battery. And not only does your V-mount battery power the transmission, but it also passes the power through to your camera. I'll go over this quickly in a second, but if you're using the transmission hub, you still need to plug it in via DTAP. It's a whole rabbit hole going down there. But this, if you're just using it like this, you can plug SDI from your camera into the transmitter, and then you're transmitting a signal. It's really quick and easy to get up and running without a bunch of cables and like extra rigging hardware everywhere. So next I would put on this DJI focus motor. So now with the focus motor on, we can put our matte box back on that we have the wrong size base plate for. Finally, if you want to put your DJI Lidar on the front of your camera, you can do so with these 1/4-20 or 3/8 here on the front of the matte box. One thing to note about that though, if you are using the flag on the front, it's kind of a pain because you have to keep the flag at like the perfect angle, because if it's too far, you're gonna block the Lidar signal. I can't move the flag up because it'll actually hit this bar here. So I've actually, if I'm going to be using the DJI Lidar, I actually don't use it with this. However, if you do want to see how that is set up, you will need to use the DJI cable hub to get that set up. I'm just going to go over that quickly. If you want to jump ahead and this, like, you don't care about this part, I'll leave a timestamp that you could skip through. But this DJI Lidar hub, using it with the transmission and the focus system, or the focus motors, and the Lidar all together. If you have the DJI transmission and you want to have the Lidar depth map for them to see on the side of the screen here, this is where you're going to have to use the DJI transmission hub. And again, this is a little bit confusing. And how I described how this passes power through to the camera kind of makes sense whenever it's just passing power to the camera. However, it's not passing power even if you plug the power in to the actual hub here. So if you're going to use all of this, you need to have a DTAP to power cable here in the DC in. Then you need to put this hub on the bottom of your transmission. So with the transmission hub on the bottom of your transmission, now you plug in this LEMO, and then you plug in the USB-C right above it. This is what passes like the start-stop record data to your camera. Then you plug this into the DTAP port. Then you plug this one into your focus motor. And then finally, you use this cable to plug into your Lidar and then mount it on the front of your camera. I know this is like maybe a little too overkill, but it took me forever to learn how to use this, to use all of this stuff together with the DJI transmission to send the Lidar depth map to the high bright monitor. It was kind of a wreck figuring that out. It was a lot of trial and error. And I feel like the DJI documentation like doesn't really hold your hand. And I've made a whole other video going over like pros and cons with the DJI transmission and with the RS4 Pro. So if you're still like a little bit confused about that, maybe check those videos out. Hopefully they answer your question in that. I'm only going over this like so in depth with this setup because there is another setup if you have the focus grip and the Lidar and a focus motor that is way easier, and it just replaces your top handle, and it's this part from Tilta that just slides onto your NATO handle. So let me disassemble some of this stuff and I'll show you a much more streamlined setup. So 20 minutes and a ton of cables later, this is the DJI Focus Pro setup, and this is made possible by using the DJI grip as the top handle here and using this Tilta NATO quick release rail to convert this to like a monitor mount and a Lidar mount. This is one package that Tilta sells, and I bought this, I think it was like about $50, and I really like this setup. It makes sense that the Lidar is right here, and we're not like putting rods or anything going out to it. Cable managing everything is like a little bit of a pain, but if you take your time and like use bongo ties in the right area, it's really not that hard. It's not much different than like a normal DJI Lidar Pro setup. So this is nice. I can control my focus motors. Let me go like this from my top grip here. And there is plenty of space, and this is a pretty heavy setup. So the first thing I did was like shake this thing around, and it's actually pretty solid. There's like a little bit of give. I don't know if I can like translate this to camera. If you really push down on it, it moves around just a little bit. I wouldn't use this point on the back to like put an easy rig on this or something, but I think this is more intended for like a handheld setup. And I think this is the most elegant solution I've seen so far, with this being the top handle instead of a side handle. I thought this video was gonna take me like 20 minutes, and I'm an hour and 29 minutes into this thing. My brain is total soup at this point, but this is my Komodo rig, as done up as it will ever be. I love the flexibility of this camera. I would mostly use this camera with a battery, the camera, a lens, a top handle, and a monitor, and just stripped down as I possibly could. But if I'm working with a team, I can add things to this body and work with the team and have a remote focus puller and have a remote feed that I could put out into a director's monitor if I needed to. So I love the flexibility of the Red ecosystem, and this camera being at the price point it is, it's kind of too hard to not pay attention to. I'm waiting for the Pyxis 12K to come out to see if I want to buy that camera or invest in this camera. That being said, even if I go with the 12K, I could see myself paying attention to the used market maybe later this year. If I find a deal that's too good to pass up, I could see myself picking up this camera. That is how much I love this Komodo. I have more Komodo and Pyxis and Sony content coming in the future, so if you like that stuff, like this video, subscribe to find your way back in the future. Thank you guys for sticking around to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.